What is that?
Feedback.
What? Sounds like a banshee. It sounds so bad, bro. All right, cool. We should be good to go. We are live. All right, awesome. So where's the feedback? I guess mute that real quick. So we're not. We should be good to go. We are live. All right, cool. Awesome. So if you have feedback, let's pause that real quick so then we should be good to go. All right, cool. Everybody can hear me?
Yeah. Yes,
sir. Awesome. We are good to go. We are live. Awesome. So welcome everyone to SDR Roundtable number 2. We got the same faces, but we also have a new face. So if they introduce, because we wasn't here on the last time, but he is here now. We're super excited to do this again. As always, guys, if you have questions, please let us know here, because we could go through the chat and we'll answer them. But we have questions already that have come up alongside the SDR Madness, which you guys saw me posting. You saw me involved with that. And they are also here to provide answers to those questions that you guys had that either you messaged me or messaged us. So we're excited to really dive down into this. If you have not been here before, what this is a live conversation on sales development trends, topics, and giving you guys strategies and tips on people who have done this SDR role before, who are managing SDR teams and are currently doing the SDR role today. So we want to give you guys the most actionable tips possible, and we want to make sure that we're giving you the most value at the same time. So without any further ado, I'm going to let a couple of people introduce themselves that are here right now. I'm going to let some people dive right into that. So again, let's go around the table again, introduce ourselves if people may not know us. We'll start off with Scott, and then we'll go down the line.
What's up? Scott Barker, Head of Partnerships at Sales Hacker. We're the largest B2B sales community on the planet. Check us out. That's me.
Cool. Ryan?
What's up, everybody? Ryan Vitello over here. I am the Sales Development Manager here at Terminus. For those of you who don't know what Terminus is, we're an account-based marketing platform that helps you engage with your buying committees in your targeted accounts through proactive display ads. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be here on the first one, but prior to being in this role, I was an SDR here for 1 year and 3 months, learned a lot, actually worked alongside Morgan Ingram. So that's how we came to know each other. So happy to be here today.
Awesome. Sam? Sam, you're muted.
Man, look at that. All right. Yeah, Sam Feldano. I'm the Director of Sales Hackers at Pipistry. I just recently took that role. Prior to that, I was at Sales Folk, and then started out as an SDR. And just living the dream.
Cool. Sydney?
So I am the business development team lead at MapD, which is a GPU accelerated SQL query base.
Cool. And then Kevin?
My name is Catherine Berry. I am an account development manager at Adobe, so I'm here in San Francisco.
You guys have very succinct and short intros. I like it. I hate when people ask me for intros because I go too elaborate and they're like, yo, what are you talking about? So super excited to be here with everyone today. So let's dive right into it. There's a lot of topics that we have talked about on the team, and we're going to touch a wide breadth of things that I think a lot of people have questions about and want to learn more about. So I think there's one video that I posted talked about active listening. I feel like as an SDR, that's something you have to have. So Scott, let's dive into a little bit about that. So what can people do to start being an active listener as an SDR, and what are some things that you did to get to that point to be an active listener?
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question, and something I think we all still struggle with to some certain extent. We all have agendas and things that we want to get, and points we want to get across. But number one, first and foremost, is don't interrupt. So that's massive. Super important. You're going to kill your relationship with any prospect, anyone, if you're interrupting. So a little tip that I have that I use is just called the 3-second rule, which anytime someone finishes talking, just wait 3 seconds. It's actually a long time. 1, 2, 3, and then present your next point. And it's interesting when you do this and you wait, people will typically elaborate more. So people are uncomfortable with silence, right? So if you let that silence just hang there, people actually divulge some super key information in that time period, and kind of keep going and let them do their thing. Let them keep talking and rambling and going on, because you as a sales professional or a BDR, that's just going to give you more information to, present why they should take a meeting or, check out your product or service. So that's one thing. 3-second rule is awesome. And then the other is just mirroring. I don't know if anyone out there or any of us, but if you guys haven't, read Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference. Really cool book. He's like an ex-FBI negotiator, and he goes through this concept of mirroring back what people are saying to you. And you don't want to, just become a parrot, and that gets annoying. But basically, it's taking what they're saying, whether it's like a complex problem solution that they're trying to explain to you, and just put it in your terms. So break that complex problem down into simpler terms is something that's worked really well for me. So, let's say you're talking to a demand gen marketer and they're like, hey, this is my problem. There's never enough leads to go around, and the sales team doesn't like certain sources. We're doing content syndication. They never treat the leads right, yada, yada, yada. You can say, awesome. Thank you for that. From what I'm hearing, your main task is to supply quality leads. You're falling short, and you're looking for a way to turn that around so you can look like a rock star to your boss. And then they're like, yeah, awesome. And then it makes that connection. And then last thing, just have an open mind, and don't push them towards your objective in every phone call. Make sure that you are listening with open mind and open ears. But those are my 2 tips.
No, I really like that. And obviously everyone at the end of the day, they want to be a rock star. So that makes sense that you got to listen on those tips. But let's kind of touch on why people rush in the first place. So, for me, as most people know, I talk super fast, and like, I'm trying to get things done super quick. Like, if you know me, that's how I am. And I have a huge struggle with being really slow and like taking those 3 seconds. Cause actually that's what my boss told me. That's what Lucas told me. He was like, hey, look, you need to pause for 3 seconds. And I like really struggle with that, cause I wanted to interject immediately, cause I always felt like I was going to get interrupted. So how does someone train their brain to like not think that they're going to get interrupted all the time and just be more of an active listener?
It's fully just training your brain. So I'm not even joking. I will count that out still sometimes when I'm feeling that urge. Just do like 1, 2, 3 in your head. And it is a painful exercise to retrain your brain. And then the other thing that you'll notice, and next time you're in a meeting with your higher ups or, your C-level or your C-suite, watch who the last person to talk is in the room. It's typically the CEO or the leader of the organization isn't the person that's jumping in all the time. They'll typically be, surveying the situation, taking it all in, letting everyone say what they got to say, and then they're the last one to speak. And I think that's pretty common for leaders. We just sometimes don't notice it in our day-to-day, but that helped me as well, acknowledging and noticing that.
Yeah, no, that's super important. And I think that goes into a lot of different things, which kind of goes into like the next topic is that's part of being great. So, but I know that there's also what you have to do in this role is like, how do you get in the 1%? Like, what are those things that you need to do? So I'm going to hand it over to Sydney and talk about what are the things that you need to do to become 1% in your role. Obviously, listening and being an active listener is part of that, but there's more to it than just that.
Yeah, I think organization is key. I think the best thing an SDR could possibly do is be extremely organized. So I personally live my life out of Excel sheet after Excel sheet after Excel sheet, which I find very helpful. I also think, the world is becoming an account-based world. So I think if you have an account-based sales mind, it's really helpful. And I think that also alludes a lot to organization, right? So I think of 5-10 accounts I want to hit a week. And then I think of the organization inside that account. And then I really try to penetrate that account in every possible way. So LinkedIn, phone, email, can I get their cell phone? Like, how can I get into that account? And I keep it very detailed, very organized, all of that. I also think perseverance is clutch. I think you need to keep trying every day, do something. Whether it's call them, if they don't answer, call them in 4 hours. And I think another great thing to do is constantly question yourself. So I think it's really helpful to kind of take your approach as a science experiment. So I come from a science background. Scientific method is the key to life, in my words. So I think it's constantly questioning yourself and be like, is this the best way to do this? Can I do something different? Is this working? What does success look like? Am I being successful? How can I do even better? That's kind of the key to being that top 1%. It's really just organization, constantly asking, constantly doing more and more and more, persevering even when you get rejected, keep trying, and then organization.
Yeah. So how does someone find those tips and tactics to try out? Like, are you just like making stuff up as you go? Like, are you checking out other people that are doing really well and taking their like, how do you go find those tactics?
Yeah. So I personally dig deep into all of my roles. So as an SDR, I joined SDR Thought Leadership. I join and follow people that I think are doing a really good job. I talk to my peers. So, sample size being 1 yourself is probably not that great. But if you have a team with you, sample size being 5, 10, figure out what everyone else is doing. And, kind of build off what they're doing, listening to what they're doing, and, figure out who's doing really well, figuring out someone that could maybe do better, and understanding what's working, what's not working, and then also bake in your personal organization to that too.
Cool. No, and that makes complete sense. You want to make sure that you're organized and you're putting yourself in the right spotlight and making sure that you're going the right way. And so obviously now it's like, okay, we're active listening. We're in the 1% of what we do, but how do you remain positive in your role and how do you continuously put yourself in the right spotlight? So I'm gonna hand out to Ryan here. I know obviously I manage Ryan. So we had a ton of conversations, we no therapy sessions. So we were good, no therapy sessions. So it's all good on that end. But I know that you're now managing a team, took over my team. So I know you got to keep them positive, right? So how are you doing that from a leadership standpoint? And then how'd you do that as a rep to remain positive when obviously times were not great?
Yeah, so this is a really good question. And honestly, I can't say as someone who's been in a rep, and honestly, if we're being kind of candid, I'm sure there were times where I came to you and I was extremely frustrated.
Yeah.
Right. And that's part of it. In terms of like a coaching aspect, I think you've got to help people realize, like, 1, am I doing my part as their coach to help them get better? Kind of like you just talked about, like, how do you get to the 1%? Well, it's not doing the same thing over and over and over again. Right. It's using those different like tactics that you have, which technology is cool. Like now we have a lot of different mediums that we can like convert over. It's not just phone. It's not just email anymore. It's a lot more than that. So helping people find confidence and wins and really like from a leader standpoint, it's going alongside that person, showing them how to do it. Not just saying like, well, hey, like here's a helpful tip. Maybe this will work. It's like, no. Like, hey, let me get in the trenches with you and like I'll get my hands dirty as well. And like, I'll link arms with you and we're going to like walk forward. So like that's for me, like that's how I would do it if I'm like in a leader's position, is not letting people feel like they're just on an island by themselves, like actually getting in there, helping them like show that 1, you know what you're talking about, you have credibility as a leader, and I'm going to help you walk through this. But then also from like a rep's perspective, it's the mindset of, for me, it was like for every no that I hear, I'm closer to a yes. And that's a really hard thing to remember, but like just really like building yourself up by not just having positive reinforcement like a good leader who's, constantly reminding you of those things, but you've got to have that like instilled in you as well. Like, honestly, if you're in sales, like you're kind of a sucker for pain in like some circumstances. Like you have to like rejection. You have to like going through difficult times and objectives to ultimately achieve a great outcome. That's why we all do what we all do at the end of the day. So like, I think one thing that you taught me that was really important that I think is huge for everyone out there is if you're in a sales role, like keep like the main thing, like keep your eye on what you're ultimately trying to achieve. So like if for some people it's like, hey, I'm trying to get to be, I'm trying to become an account executive as fast as I possibly can. Like getting that next meeting is just one step to getting you to where you want to be.
Right.
But knowing like your end goal, knowing your why, and I feel like there's like a Simon Sinek thing like going on in this conversation, like leaders eat last, and like knowing your why, like that's so important, because at the end of the day, if you know your why, it's ultimately going to drive you that much harder and faster to what you're trying to achieve, which ultimately will like totally disintegrate any kind of mindset of, oh man, like I'm really struggling. As long as you keep that like present and top of mind, like you'll be unstoppable. But it's the people who struggle to keep that top of mind who seem to fall into those spots of like, man, like I'm really struggling right now. Like it's hard to find success. I don't have a positive mindset. And as a leader, it's your responsibility to be able to identify that and keep that top of mind for a rep whenever they can.
So question to you, Ryan, what if this all sounds great, man, but what if I don't have a why? Like, what do I do? What if I don't know what that is yet? How does someone does stay motivated if they don't even have that yet? Because most people may not even understand what that even means.
That's a good question. So let me define like what I mean by that, because that's a good point. Some people may not know what that is. And ultimately your why is like your driving factor for why you wake up in the morning and like, why do you do this? Right. For me, like I'll talk personally for a second. Like for me, it's ultimately, I want to achieve a goal where one day my wife doesn't have to work, that I can be like a sole provider for my family. And like, ultimately I can provide and maintain an awesome lifestyle for myself and my wife, and maybe our kids one day whenever we decide to have kids. So like, that's like what motivates me at my core. Like that is what gets me up in the morning and gets me to like work really, really hard. For someone who doesn't have that identified, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I would definitely say like, whoever you are out there, like you need to spend time and like really like seclude yourself from everything, like find a quiet place and really think about this. Because ultimately, if you don't know what you're doing or why you're doing something, you're running a pointless race. Like you're running towards a goal that's ultimately just like, there's nothing out there. There's no finish line.
Right.
So like understand what makes you tick. And for everyone, it's different. For me, it's like, it's what I just explained. For other people, it's like, hey, I want to make a lot of money. That's totally fine. Like if that's your why, go do that. If it's, I want to achieve this role, or I want to start my own company and I know that I need to do this, and this before I can do that, like that's your why. But everyone needs to know that. And honestly, the best way to go about doing that is like pulling yourself out of all the noise and the distraction that's going on around you, and really just spending some time understanding at the end of the day, why are you doing what you're doing? What are you passionate about? And ultimately, like, what do you want to do at the end of the day? Yeah. Like people always talk about these like 5 to 10 year plans. Like think about what do you want to do in like 2 to 3 years? Like help yourself out. Don't try to overcome the world.
Yeah. don't try to do that. Isn't that not the agenda?
I mean, yeah, it is ultimately, but like take it in bite-sized pieces. Come on, do yourself a favor.
Great for world domination.
Yeah, I mean that's my mindset. But I'm crazy, though. Ryan already knows that. But essentially,
are you a Maserati guy? Isn't that your why?
I'm a Maserati guy right now. So that's my current why. So that's just me though. But let's go. I want to go into the next question. So I'm about to just happen. But before we do into that, so I want to ask a comment here that it's essentially what you just talked about, Ryan. And whoever wants to hop on this one can. But they said when getting no's on the phone, how do you know when to push forward and when to take the answer and end the conversation? Do you still call back later? And what should you do? So leave that open to whoever wants to answer that one.
I mean, I'll jump right in.
Yeah.
Got no problem. So when someone tells you no, there's always a good, it's like when you're on a phone call or any kind of conversation, it's like a dance, right? Like you're dancing with someone and there's give and take. And like, you have to understand that like, it's okay to like push back. And if you really truly feel like you're providing value and you're giving something to them and they're maybe just missing it, like, yes, it's your responsibility as a salesperson to go back in there and ask another time. However, at the end of the day, if you've done a really good job of providing value and clarity as to why someone should be taking this meeting or phone call or whatever it might be, and they're simply telling you no, and here's why, like it just doesn't make sense for them or their business, like you've got to respect that. Like number one rule of sales, always lead with empathy. But two, like you've got to understand, like we're not bullies. Like you can't bully people into meetings. You got to do what's best for the customer. And that's not necessarily always setting up a meeting or a next step. So like it's very circumstantial, but that's what I would say.
Yeah.
And it's a fine line. I mean, you don't want to, like you're saying, right, you don't want to push it too far, because then you're just causing damage for yourself as well as your company, because they're going to remember that rep from this company. But, no doesn't always mean no in this situation. It just means that you need to dig deeper into why they're giving you that no, and then figure out if it's legitimate, if there's a reason that you can, or a way that you can kind of poke some holes in that no and start figuring out, why, and then how to achieve their goal and also achieve yours in the process.
Yeah. I think it's just understanding, hey, at the end of the day, you have to ask the right questions on why they're telling you no. If someone says they're not interested, or the common objections, I'm heading into a meeting, or we don't have the budget, you just got to figure out why they're saying that. They're probably just saying that just to deter you. You got to ask the right questions to put yourself in the right spot. So I think those are things you got to think about when you are presenting that information and you're getting those no's and calling back later. Obviously, you can call back later if they tell you to call back later, but it's not calling someone, they say no, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna call you next week. That's obviously not going to be smart move for you on your end. So those are things to consider. But I want to hop into a new type of topic. I'm starting to see this actually pop up a lot lately. People are talking about videos and how people are doing videos wrong and how people hate videos and they're starting to annoy them. And I don't know, it's starting to get kind of out of hand for me. I don't really understand why people are getting like really agitated. It's like just another form of something that people just don't like. But again, people don't like change. And when it's something that they're not used to, people combat that. So Catherine, let's talk a little bit about video. Let's dive deep into this. So how are people doing video wrong?
So I am almost hesitant to say that there's a wrong way to do video, just because I feel like a lot of people are still a little uncomfortable with even putting themselves on video in the first place. So first of all, I'd encourage anyone to try video. It's going to be weird for the first couple of times, but I would say a couple of things to avoid. Number one, of the videos I've seen pop up in my inbox, just the prospecting I've been getting, I think the main kind of wrong thing that's been done in video is just replicating what your email would be, but just saying it out loud. I think a lot of people just take their general format of their email, their short intro, their, value, and their, call to action. They just replicate that, put it in a 60-second video, and they'll email it out. And that's not the form that people want. If they're clicking on a video and they're not responding to your email, it's because they think the video is going to be something different than the email. So make sure it's actually different. And also make sure it showcases your personality. There are so many different personalities in my office. And what can happen is when people go to video, everyone just kind of becomes sort of monotone. They try to be very professional and like respectful and just sort of very just general, but they don't give any sort of spark or uniqueness to the video. And I think we all have a different personality to offer. So don't let the video just be a direct replication of your email. Actually add your personality to it. Add a little laugh in there if it's natural. If you mess up, just go with it. Make a little comment about it. Don't be so robotic. I've seen people do videos where they've done a magic trick during it. I've seen really funky backgrounds. People will draw things. There is so much I think the best thing about video is that it shows your creativity, and I work at Adobe, very creative company. So I think it reflects our brand very well to bring those things into video. But that's when you get the positive responses. And that's when you get people really appreciating the time you put into it, is when it comes across very genuine and natural. And that's what makes it engaging. It's not engaging just because it's video. It's engaging because it's human. And you're showing that, you actually have a personality, because sometimes in email, it's hard to showcase that. So I would say first thing to avoid is don't try to make it too, approachable or too just general. Make sure you bring across your personality. And then second of all, make sure there's a very strong call to action. A lot of times videos tend to kind of ramble on. It's easier to do that in a video. And you lose sight as the viewer of what you're actually supposed to be doing because of that video. You don't really know, am I supposed to respond to this? Am I supposed to attend an event? What's the call to action here? So maybe even once or twice in the video, state what you want out of it, whether it's just replying back to the email or if subscribing to something, taking a call, what that might be. Because usually, I mean, it depends what form you use for video, but usually you're on a separate link and you're out of your email inbox. So it's easy to like just watch that video and kind of get on with your day and forget about the original email sent out. So make sure that you're adding a very punchy call to action that actually results in a conversion for the video. You didn't spend all that time making something that was fun to watch, but then they forget what to actually do with the video, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of great points there. And I keep trying to tell people, like, when I made my first video, it was absolutely terrible. It was not good at all. I don't know if, Ryan, I don't know if I showed you my first video. So it's so, like, I look at it, it was so bad. Like, I thought I was so cool. Like, I have a chain on, I'm in my car. I'm like, it's like super in my face. I'm like yelling at the camera. I'm talking faster than I normally talk. It's so, like, it is so bad.
It's cringy.
Like, I gotta go. I'm gonna post it one day on LinkedIn and like, guys, this first video was terrible.
So I think we should all critique it next SDR roundtable. Let's watch it and I'll weigh in on it.
Oh, I might have to just like leave.
Roundtable reacts to Morgan's first video.
Oh my gosh, it's so bad. Like, you guys would laugh so hard. But the thing is, obviously over time it gets better. I've made a lot of videos since then, and now I understand my personality and how it works. And I think it's the same thing with videos, because I think people don't think about that it's a virtual voicemail. That's really how I see videos. And then also it's you articulating your message just in a different way, because when you first got on the phone, you probably weren't great. When you first crafted that personalized email, it probably wasn't that good, but over time you got better. And I think people need the same way as video, but I think obviously it's exposing you because, like, you now see me and you get to hear what I have to say. So if it's not good, then obviously it's putting you a bad spotlight. So what are some ways, Catherine, that people can start getting more comfortable on video and start making those videos so that they can start getting responses from prospects?
Yeah, I think so my history is videos that I started out on YouTube. So like Morgan, I have a lot of very cringy, embarrassing videos that I left on YouTube because I kind of wanted people to see, like, the beginning is not so bright. Like, the beginning, you don't give a ton of great responses or maybe great viewage or whatnot. But those beginning videos, you can see the progress immediately start to increase. Like, maybe by the 12th video, I was much, much more comfortable on camera. So I would encourage you to just try video outside of even sales, maybe. Like, I have done video interview applications. I've done video, like, happy birthday messages to coworkers that are friends that are, across the country. Like, try video, not just in your work environment. Just kind of think of it as almost like a FaceTime. Like, it's, there's no friend on the other side that you can see when we're recording a video besides yourself. But try to think of it outside the context of, like, this is for sales or this is for prospecting, and try to think of it as just other forms you do video all the time. Like, you FaceTime people all the time, and you might send a video or make a video for someone's birthday. Like, think of it in those contexts and try video, in other areas of your life, because it's really just the quantity of videos that you make that gets you the most comfortable. I wish I had some sort of quick hack of, like, do this and you'll just feel more comfortable. But for me, at least, it was just really consistently making them and getting more comfortable with myself on camera, because now when I watch myself back, I know exactly what I sound like. I know what I look like, versus a lot of my coworkers, they refuse to watch themselves back. Like, they can't watch the video. It's really hard for them to look at that. But I've just become so comfortable with it that I can critique myself and improve that way. And so it's just the quantity. I mean, unless someone else has another opinion on that.
Does anyone have anything on that? I'll add some context if not. Cool.
I think she's exactly on it. Like, you've got to do reps. It's like anything. Like, when you first start any kind of new sales position, like, you've got to have repetitions of what in the world you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And I think anyone that's done video is definitely in the same boat as you, Catherine and Morgan. Like, my first video was horrible, and, like, I had to shoot it probably 10 different times because I felt so uncomfortable. But it's doing that. It's getting out of your comfort zone, because ultimately it's going to help you get better. You're going to see conversions on it if you do it correctly. But like anything, it takes reps. Like, if you don't do the reps, if you don't take the time to get uncomfortable to get comfortable, you'll never be good at it.
That's a great point. I think it comes down, and actually, Catherine, is a great point. So when I first started posting videos, I hated reviewing them. I hated looking at them. I saw myself and I was like, I don't even know what that even is right now. Because when you make a video, you're just like, yeah, I sound amazing. And then you get the first 10 seconds and you're like, wait, that's not how I thought I sounded. And you're like, hopefully everyone else likes it. I don't want to listen to myself. So I think it comes down to like really watching yourself, because then you can see like what you're actually doing. For me, it was like, and you probably have some things that you picked out, Catherine. For me, it was, I talked way too fast. I wasn't clear on my points, and I just was like hyped the entire time. And most people actually don't like that much hype. They're like, yo, like that, you're like way too fired up. Like some people would probably message me like, yo, are you on some drugs that like what's going on? And I was like, no, I'm just like that excited about what I'm sharing. But you have to contain yourself in the right way. And you got to make sure that you have the right inflection points when you're making video. And I think it really, again, it comes down to making sure that you're saying the right things in the right way, and also knowing who your prospects are and knowing who you're reaching out to. Obviously, if you reach out to salespeople, that message is going to be different than reaching out to IT or marketing. You just got to know that. So, but I think it's starting a video now. It's one of the things that I would encourage people to do, and just be yourself with them. Obviously, there's creativity stuff. I know that people sing songs and do backflips and write on whiteboards and crazy stuff. But the thing is, if that's not you, don't do it. Just because you see someone rapping rapping to a prospect, it doesn't mean that you need to start rapping, because I know surely I'm not going to be doing that. So
maybe it does mean that. Yeah. I would love if more people rapped on their videos.
Oh my God. I would get more unsubscribes in my life if I started rapping. There are people who are like, we're not doing business with you at all. So, but if someone started doing it, that'd actually be really smart if you're good at it. But I want to hop into this question before we hop into Sam about personal branding. And as you guys continue to ask questions, please feel free to keep asking them. We're going to have a Q&A session at the end. But someone asked, for your business, how many touch points do you see before conversion? 4, 6, 10, 12. That's honestly going to vary across the board. So I'm curious to see what you guys' thoughts are.
I found my sweet spots, lucky number 13, mixing in everything. And, I've tested this out at different companies and different points, and putting in, mixing in emails and calls. I've found email wise, I try and have, 6 to 8 emails in there, and then calls, and then some kind of social touch point in there as well. Try and throw something creative into.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it depends on the business size. Like the smaller businesses, maybe lower end, maybe like 5, 6, 7. But for the enterprise, it can be up to 20. Just depends.
Yeah.
It's just activities every day. They don't answer in the morning, call them in the afternoon.
Getting aggressive over there, Sydney. Jeez. I love it. Anybody else want to add feedback to that? Cool. I think it's mixing all those activities together. And I think you also need to understand, 13 touch points doesn't mean 13 calls. And it doesn't mean send only 13 emails. It means okay, throw in 3 videos, maybe 3 phone calls, 4 emails, and maybe a couple social touches. So I think you got to be multi-threaded when you do that, because you don't know how people respond. Obviously with enterprise, it's going to be a lot more because they're doing a lot more things and they're getting blown up. I think SMB mid-market, it's definitely going to be less. I mean, I would probably say for I don't know, Ryan, I mean, for when we were at Terminus, when I was at Terminus, it was 3 or 4 most times. Right now for me, it's around the 4, 5, 6. Just depends on who you're reaching out to, honestly, though.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say for us, right now, our sweet spot is 4 to 6 to see a conversion. But our ultimate play is longer than that, right? Yeah. That's because there are some people who it just takes longer. And I think what Sydney talked about is really, really important, is size of company has a ton to do with it.
Yeah, of course.
So as someone who worked a lot of enterprise accounts, when I was a rep, it took a lot longer for those accounts to convert, especially because as a company that sells to a marketing department, there are so many freaking different parts of a marketing department inside of an enterprise account. And then even then, I don't even know if I'm talking to the right person inside of the right division, inside of the right role. So it's super complex and it's different for every single person. I think the important thing is, and Sam hit on this, is it's not just calls, it's not just emails, it's a blend of everything. You have to be good on everything now, because if you don't, your competition is.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'll add a note there too. Make sure you know which channel each account responds best to, or even each contact. Like once you set up the first call, if you got that first call by leaving them a voicemail, like keep calling them to set up the next call. Like don't go to email, don't go to LinkedIn. Like that's the best channel for them. Or if you got the first meeting off of LinkedIn, maybe message them and say like, hey, you know, is it a good time to start that demo up or something like that? Like make sure you know which channel they respond best to and hit them up on that channel rather than keeping the blend for like the next meeting if you're going to have an ongoing relationship with that prospect.
Yeah, that's super critical. You need to know the data behind what people are responding to and not wasting your time on channels that no one's answering. So if no one's answering on Twitter, then maybe you should stop reaching out on Twitter. It's things like that to consider. So let's hop into the ever evolving topic, what everyone was always talking about, personal brand. So Sam, tell us a little bit more about why should people care about personal brand and maybe some experiences that you have that's been super beneficial for you as you've been building your brand.
Yeah, definitely. So I think personal brand is something that a lot of people put a lot of weight on, and for good reason. I don't want to say it's like the most important thing you're going to do for yourself, because I think performing at your job is probably going to be that thing, but your personal brand is incredibly important for getting to where you want to be. And so, you know, to loop back around in some of the topics we've talked about, like being the top 1%, I think some of the top 1% are the people who have been able to establish some sort of personal brand. I think that it shows leadership and it shows your ability to see beyond just where you are currently. But, you know, developing a personal brand doesn't just mean that you have to overnight declare yourself a thought leader and get out there and start posting 100 videos. And I think it more boils down to being able to speak intelligently about the subject that you're on and be able to recognize when there's other people out there who, you know, have built a really good brand and being able to listen to them, engage with them, and try and, I think it comes down to networking too. Networking is incredibly important. I mean, I met you, Morgan, last year at Atlanta, and up until that point, I hadn't really, you know, we had talked, I had messaged you on LinkedIn a couple of times, but, you know, I saw what you were doing and I thought it was, you know, cool that an SDR was out there and getting some serious traction and some attention. And then I was down there at Rainmaker and John Barrows was on stage talking about you and your personal brand. And that like blew me away, because it's like, you know, Morgan's an SDR and he's getting called out by John on stage for what he's doing. And I see that, you know, constantly with people nowadays that are, you know, building up and growing their brand, you know, spending the time necessary to grow it. But I want to give like a word of caution here too. You don't want to focus all of your energy on your personal brand either, though, or else you're going to cause some damage to yourself and your career. Because it's hard to balance it. So, you know, focus on, you know, today. I think the best step is just taking action. You know, do something, find out where your sweet spot is. Are you good at video? Are you good at writing? Are you good at just talking? Are you like an artistic type? Are you more of a data-driven person that you can post some of the data you've understood about, you know, what you're trying to talk about in that industry? You know, just take a stance on something and stand by it, and be willing to network with people, talk to other people that are bigger, and, you know, have some humility about it, because there's no like extra points for whoever has the best personal brand in the end. Like really, I think what you should be establishing a personal brand is trying to help yourself grow your career down the road, because today, you know, the seeds that you're planting are going to turn into trees in a few years. And, you know, what you're doing now is definitely going to reciprocate. I started writing articles on LinkedIn, and, you know, I wrote probably 10 articles and I didn't post them and I was scared. I was, why?
Like, what's going on?
Why isn't anyone going to care what I have to say? Like, I'm an SDR at a small company in Denver. Like, I'm just some guy. And finally, you know, worked up the courage, posted it. And the first post I did did very well. And it surprised me, because this whole time I was doubting myself, and, you know, doubt plays such a big role, and fear plays such a big role in sales. I think that people need to understand that it plays just as much role in your personal brand, but it doesn't need to. It's not this big scary thing like everyone makes it out to be. It's just, part of, if you're trying to become part of the 1%, trying to grow yourself, trying to get to where you want to be and have those end goals like Ryan was talking about, your personal brand and developing that out is super crucial. And it's something that not enough people do. And, the world doesn't need 20,000 people blogging about, the best sales tactics either, though. Like, find your niche. And
that was crazy.
Figure out find your niche and figure out what works for you, figure out the method of getting your message out there. But I'd say don't overdo it either. No one wants to, people get annoyed on LinkedIn if you're that person who's posting every 5 minutes about something and, acting like a know-it-all. I know I was doing that for a while, and, looking back, it's kind of cringy. You think, I didn't know everything, but maybe I was pretending to, but I'm still learning and trying to figure it out.
Yeah, no, those are all great points across the board. I actually had my 6-month review with John last week, and I told him that, I needed to, I was just straight up honest. I was like, hey, look, I'm personal brand, obviously for me is really big. For most of you that are obviously on the panel, that. But I was like, hey, look, it's also, my job is important too. Like, I don't get paid to post on LinkedIn statuses. So that's just not what's happening. Instead, I obviously provide value. That's my main goal. That's a main driver for me. Like, I'm going to help as many people as possible. And that's my initiative, but that's not what I'm essentially doing. That's like not me. Right. So I think it's always important to understand that the personal brand is a part of you, whether you like it or not. Post the content, post stuff that's relative, ask good questions, promote other people who are promoting great stuff, but don't let it be something that you think about every single waking moment that you forget to actually execute on the job that you have at hand and actually provide impact to the organization that's giving you the resources and giving you the value and giving you the money to do what you're doing. So I think you brought up a great point there, because a lot of people can't be wrapped up on that. I'm even telling people now, like, hey, look, don't get too wrapped up in it that you forget what you're there for.
Yeah. And don't take yourself too seriously either.
Yeah.
Have fun with it. And building out your brand, this is how you're going to be recognized. Like, make sure that you're recognized as something that you enjoy and have fun with. Yeah, you got to be yourself, and obviously the more you are yourself, the more that people are going to gravitate towards you and then respond to you, and then they're going to be like, that's a person that I want to connect with at the end of the day. So you bring up a great point there, and I feel like that's super critical across the board. So with everything that we've touched on today, for everyone that's listening right now, if you do have questions, let's hop into the Q&A. I know there's another question that popped up, and then obviously if there's anything you guys want to touch on additionally, we can hop into that. But here was another question. Our SDR and marketing departs into 2 different silos, messaging and targets. What are some ways to move toward alignment? So guessing account-based marketing is essentially what they're asking. So Ryan?
Yeah. So just want to make sure I got the question right. They're talking about how do they better align sales and marketing within inside their organization?
Yeah. It's more so like how can marketing and sales get together on a better basis to help more alignment and get better messaging is essentially what that question is asking. Yeah.
So welcome to the question that every company wants to solve, but very few companies are actually solving. It first of all starts with you understanding who your best fit accounts are. Honestly, like that's the core of it. Who is your product best going to serve? And once you understand that, you can really start to talk to like your buyer and understanding what the buyer's not only business objectives are, what their pain points are, and then where does your solution fit into that? If you understand that, now you have a powerful story. That is going to allow marketing and sales to unite in a way that's magical, really. But ultimately, if you're just trying to push a product and sell on features, you're going to lose. So you got to think about it from their perspective. What is this person doing on a day-to-day basis? And so, for example, we sell to marketers. One thing that I needed to do from a sales perspective in order to create messaging that aligns with marketers is go spend time with our marketers to figure out what are they doing on a day-to-day basis? Where are their pain points? What are their KPIs? Like when they go to their boss and they're being measured, what are they being measured on? And once I understood that, I said, okay, now I need to position my product in a way that's not just selling on, well, we can do this and we got this cool integration. No, like that's not good. You got to understand, okay, that's their business objective. That's what they're being held to. That's how they keep their seat within inside of the organization. Where is the pain? Where is the inefficiency? Where is the lack thereof that exists today? And then where does my solution fit into helping them achieve something that's much bigger than just a feature or a flashy item, you know? So how do you do that? You start spending time with the people within inside of your organization that you'd actively sell to. If you don't have those people inside of your organization, LinkedIn is a great tool for this. It allows you to get total insight because guess what? People are actively talking about it. Like one thing that I loved was people who would put under their LinkedIn profile what they're responsible for in their day-to-day job, because that was literally just me picking up all these little nuggets saying, okay, I'm about to craft you a very personalized message and speak to probably some of the pain points that you're experiencing because I've just learned so much about you. Which that was, you know, one of the things that we talked about earlier in this call.
Yep.
But I mean, it's taking the time to do some of the painful work that it takes on the front end to then be better on the back end. And ultimately it starts with understanding your buyers.
Right. Cool. Very convoluted answer. I like it. Anybody else want to touch on that question?
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, no, I've just said it's spot on. And then it also, you know, it starts with communication as well, right? Your BDRs, your SDRs, they're on the front lines and they're the ones that are interacting with your prospects and your customers the most. So make sure that there's an open line of communication, and it's just not marketing running these campaigns when the BDR team is cringing because they're like, shit, like that's not what people care about. Like that. Yeah. I just had 30 conversations today. No one gives a shit about what marketing is trying to push out there. Right. Make sure those communication is open, and you need to facilitate an atmosphere where your BDRs, SDRs, even, you know, very junior people are comfortable speaking up and being like, you know, there's a disconnect between what we think our customers want and what they're actually saying. Customer success can play a vital role in that as well.
Of course.
I think I might get some flack for this, but I think a great way for companies to establish the foundation of good communication between marketing and sales is to put the SDR team under the marketing umbrella and act as a bridge between sales and marketing. So they are in contact with both the marketing team and the sales reps at all times. And they act as that bridge and that mediator. I don't even know what word I was going for there.
Mediator?
Yeah, mediator? The mediator. There it is.
Yeah, I got you.
And it's a long night, guys.
All those books you've been reading, Morgan.
Just all the words just come to me after you read so many. It's just like, oh yeah, that's what the word is.
I mean, what do you guys think of that?
I love it.
Sydney reported to marketing as an SDR at one point.
Yeah, that was something I said at our last discussion. I think it's incredibly important to put the SDRs in the middle. I think, you know, SDRs is almost pseudo like outbound marketing tool. Yes. So if you allow the SDRs to be part of the marketing org, the SDRs are thinking on a marketing level, they're thinking on an account-based level, and then sales is forced to also adopt that mindset, which I think is extremely powerful for building an account-based sales organization, period.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't really have much to add from that. I think you guys pretty much hit every single nail on the head. There has to be alignment across the board. I think marketing sales just need to understand what SDRs are saying, because an SDR in essence is holding the brand of the company because they're reaching out to people front line. So if your SDRs are saying crazy stuff, then marketing needs to know that. And also sales needs to know what's going on, because if they hand it off to an account executive, that eventually an AE is going to hand it off to the customer success person, and then that whole initial conversation was bad, then the customer is going to be angry by default. So I think that's why both teams they have to be involved, because of those two things, unless, you know, those things aren't as applicable in the organization, but I'd be shocked if they weren't. So I think that's where that comes into play. And this isn't a question that no one's asked, but this is a question that I saw in a thread. John's talked about it. I heard someone ask me at the conference I was just at. So I'm gonna ask you all guys what you guys think and what your thoughts are. So LinkedIn video. So this is obviously different than video prospecting, just LinkedIn video in general. Do you feel like it's something that is diluting people's brand because they're posting too many videos, or can it be used in the right way? Should people not be posting LinkedIn videos natively and just like focus on other initiatives? Like, what are y'all's thoughts on that? Because I'm just super curious, because a lot of people think they're terrible. A lot of people are getting upset. I'm just super curious to see what you guys' thoughts are on that from a purely perspective on what you see.
I have tried video twice now, 3 times, and I've gotten really good engagement on my end, but from the outward angle of people seeing the video, I don't feel like my feed is flooded by that much video yet. And I mean, that's the content I consume the most. Like, I like video the most. Video and audio, I think, are the mediums I appreciate the most. But what I will say is I like the videos more when they're sort of in an experiential mode. So I made a video about Adobe Summit, the conference that we just put on. And I know, Morgan, you did some videos when you were at Dreamforce, and I like seeing people kind of in an element rather than just being in their room and just talking to the camera in a format they could have just put in maybe an article or a different type of post. So I think that it's cooler when you're showcasing maybe a speaker that you just saw or a conference you're at, rather than just delivering some message that you could have written an article about.
I completely agree with that. I think it's context, right? Like, if you have a reason to post a video, post a video. But if you're just posting a video because video is new and cool and you could do it in an article, there's really no point.
Yeah, I agree with Sydney on that one. So I do weekly LinkedIn videos. In the last 2 weeks, I honestly was heads down and didn't have anything to say. There was nothing that came up that was new and exciting in my world that I thought anyone could benefit from. So, rather than just contribute to the noise and do it because the LinkedIn algorithm is going to favor my consistency, I just was like, put it on pause until I can comprehend my thoughts and put something out there that's actually of value and people are going to care about, and it's going to help them.
Yeah. I think it's intriguing. Catherine makes a good point. So I'll do Dreamforce. I didn't do it in Chicago because my voice was actually just terrible at the end of it. So I was like, I don't want to do this. I can't make this video. I'll make it later. I'll actually make it in my room, Catherine. So that's probably what's going to happen. So, but essentially, like, I agree with all you guys. Like, I'm only going to post a video if there's actual real value from it. And it's an idea that I've thought out. I think what happens though, is that especially probably the most frustrating to me is when people do videos in the car.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought it up. There's a lot
what'd you say?
There's a lot of Gary V wannabes out there, man.
I'm getting actually really agitated by this because there's no insight or knowledge that you're spreading in the car while you're driving. That's the world. You're just not, unless you just felt like you came up with the formula to solve cancer or world hunger, then great, post that video in the car. We need that. But for the most part, there's no groundbreaking information that you have that you're sitting in your car. And I think I come from a different standpoint on that, because I don't know if you guys are familiar with Periscope. So it was a live streaming app that was there for a while. It's not really relative anymore, but there was someone who was live streaming and doing a video in their car and they got in a wreck. So it's kind of like I've seen this happen in person. Like I didn't see that. I didn't see it live, but I've seen it happen. So it's like, my thing is that, like, there's nothing you're spitting out that's going to be like major gold that you need to like be in a car for. But then again, I know someone's gonna look at my videos and see a video of me in the car. So I'll go ahead and address this. I wasn't driving in my car. I was just in my car, posted up. But what I've seen now is people actually driving in the car and then doing a video. I just think that's like, I don't know. I just feel like that's not really relative to like the message that you're trying to convey. And I think also another big thing that a lot of people need to do for LinkedIn videos is what John's recommended to me. And it's what I do every single time is I write out what I'm going to say. And I just say it in my head like a couple times and I rehearse before I do it. And then I obviously add more verbiage and language and color to it once I'm in the video when thoughts come up. But I know what I'm going to say. It's not just like, oh, wait, LinkedIn video? I have it now? Let me just make a video on, I don't even know what I'm going to make it on, just something random. So I like the last video, I think it was the last video I posted, like the 10 commandments of like SDRs of what they should stop doing. Like I like wrote that out. I really thought about it. I mapped it out and I was like, these are things I'm going to say. Even though it was a 10-minute video, it correlated and it resonated with people because it was something of value. And I knew that this is something that people needed to hear about. And it doesn't really matter. I don't think the length of video matters. I think it's the person that's behind it and what are they actually bringing, and is it something that's relative? Because if you're just posting videos and post videos because the algorithm is going to favor you, then a lot of people will probably get annoyed with what you're saying. But what's same as Catherine, I don't see like a crazy amount of videos. Like if I see a video from someone, it's someone that I know and I'm cool with it. But also I'm not as, I just don't, like if I don't want to see it, then I don't want to see it. I keep scrolling. So it's not like, it's not like a 3D video where it's popping up in my face. Like it's not that deep. So I don't know, that's just me though. But I think a lot of people are just annoyed by it because it's changed and it's different.
Totally.
So I think that's the basis of the cover of what we wanted to touch on today. I think one question did pop up here. Do you all think LinkedIn messaging is a good technique to reach prospects if email hasn't been receiving any response?
100%. I love LinkedIn messaging.
Okay.
But alluding to our conversation last month, it has to be personalized, it has to be relevant, and it has to have a very specific point. There's no magic formula where you just repeat your email into a LinkedIn message. It's very much a way to showcase your personality and reach in a more casual way. Think of it kind of as like sending someone a text. So it can be a little less informal. And it's like, hey, like, I noticed you're responsible for a couple of things, list them via their words in LinkedIn. I really am eager to connect with you. I think we would help you based on XYZ. This is how we solve your pain. Any chance you can connect sometime this week? Super casual.
And to touch on that, or kind of to reiterate what you were saying earlier, Sid, it depends on your audience. I was selling into procurement, and when I was first getting into the SDR role, and LinkedIn messaging did not work very well for a lot of them.
Yeah.
And selling into sales and marketing, it worked a lot better. So I think you need to know your audience.
I think that's very true. I used to sell to marketers. Marketers love LinkedIn.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's also just understanding the messaging of what you're doing. So like there was one guy who he was a Washington Wizards fan and Kevin Durant had gone to Golden State. So I messaged him actually and I was like, hey, what were your thoughts on Kevin Durant not coming back home to the Wizards and actually going to Golden State? So we had a conversation, which ultimately led into an opportunity. So I think it's just using relative context in messaging and putting yourself in the right spot. But again, I think it's what it goes back to. You guys said, like, it depends on your industry. I mean, if you're reaching out to education, I don't think they're on LinkedIn as much. Like they may be on like another source of outreach. So I think it's really just understanding like who you're reaching out to. If it's IT, marketing, sales, you really got to figure that out. Cool. Does anyone have anything else to add to that on LinkedIn messaging? Cool. Yeah, I think it just comes down to that. And then LinkedIn personalized invitations, I think those are key too, because obviously you can get context there. And then really, I think the big thing is the green bubble. The green bubble is my favorite thing of all time. So, because it tells you if someone's active or not. And every time that I've seen the green bubble like full and it's active, I normally just send a message to someone and then they're just like, oh yeah, like let's connect. And like, it's a huge response back. And also you can see if someone's actually read it or not, which is really cool too. So I think those things are applicable across the board. But we're wrapping up here for the SDR Roundtable. Thank you so much for everyone who's asked questions. Thank you everyone who tuned in today. We really do appreciate that. As we wrap it up here, let's go around the circle again and just say, hey, where can they find you? So Scott, you can start us off.
Yeah, LinkedIn, Scott Barker, check me out, connect. That's the best way.
Cool. Ryan?
Yep. Ryan Vitello. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's probably where I'm most active. You can tweet at me at Ryan Vitello. And yeah, happy to help in any way I can.
Cool. Sam?
LinkedIn. Just send me a request. I love making new connections with people. Send me a message too. Let's talk.
Awesome. Sydney?
LinkedIn for me too. It's just Sydney Bonar at LinkedIn.
And Catherine?
I am at Katherout, KATHEROUT on YouTube if you want to check my video content, Instagram, Twitter, and then LinkedIn is just Catherine Berry, which is video too.
Awesome. And Morgan J. Ingram on everything, and then SDR Chronicles, as you guys know. So Thank you guys so much for coming on the roundtable once again, providing massive amount of value. I know that people really do appreciate this, so I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to hop on here because I know how busy all of you are. So I do appreciate that every single time. And everyone who's commented and engaged with this video and will listen to the playback, thank you so much for listening in and watching us. And we'll let you keep you updated on the next roundtable. And I hope that you guys have a great rest of Friday and have an amazing weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys.